So welcome to Leveraging LinkedIn to Connect and Engage Alumni. My name is Lindsay Montina. I'm the Manager of Alumni Relations at the University of Lethbridge, and also a proud alum of Royal Roads University. So I'm happy to introduce our speakers today. So Catherine Riggins is the Associate Vice President, Marketing and Alumni Relations at Royal Roads University. Catherine uses positivity, encouragement, and exceptional communication skills to lead the BMR and alumni relations teams, creating award-winning outcomes and ensuring effective engagement with RRU's valued alumni community. In 2010, Catherine accepted the role of Director of Branding, Marketing, and Recruitment after leaving Canada Post Corporation, where she was the Director of Marketing, Communications, Sponsorship, and Brand since 2000. Woohoo! Notably, she successfully negotiated the title sponsorship of the Canadian Freestyle Ski Team during her tenure at Canada Post. A leader, a mother, and ambassador for opportunities, Catherine holds a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Ottawa and uses her 3 decades of marketing experience to ensure her teams consistently deliver an outstanding experience to internal and external stakeholders. When Catherine isn't in the office driving the BMR team towards creative excellence, such as the RRU rebranding, completed in 2011 and garnering industry awards in Canada as well as internationally, you might find her collecting beach glass, investigating unique antiques, or spending quality time with her 2-legged and 4-legged children. And I'd like to welcome Graham Owens, an account executive with higher education with LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. As the higher education lead for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions Canada, Graham partners with colleges and universities across the country to leverage LinkedIn as a premier content, marketing, stakeholder outreach, and student recruitment platform. He leans on his entrepreneurial background, digital focus, and love for learning to transform the way schools build their brands, engage their alumni communities, and activate prospective students. Graham is passionate about building the business he works with, giving back to those in the next generation of leaders, and continuing to better himself and those around him every day. So let's welcome our speakers.
Thank you very much. I guess it's great for both of us to be back in Ottawa
Right?
now at the same time. Awesome. So we're here today to talk about how to leverage LinkedIn to better connect and engage with alumni. We wanted to kick things off and just tell you a little bit about ourselves. I know we have pretty extensive bios, but
Yeah.
at least a pretty quick hello. Do you want to introduce
No,
yourself? Oh, well, I guess we're really delighted, more specifically because Catherine and I get to work together every day, and a chance to come and share not only how LinkedIn enables schools to better engage their alumni groups, but also to share some success stories specifically from the work that we've done with Royal Road. So very, very excited to be working closely together. Although, as a Carleton graduate, I didn't realize you went to Ottawa U, and maybe we have to have a little bit of a scuffle here.
Right.
So, and as was mentioned, I do lead the higher education business for LinkedIn, and I'm very excited to be sharing some of the things that we're working on with you today.
But what's with the weather in Ottawa? I thought it would be hot.
It brings you back, I guess.
Right?
Lovely. All right. First of all, thank you so much for filling the room. It's really warm and welcoming to see so many familiar faces and faces that we haven't seen before. I do want to sort of kick off the conversation today with really why I'm excited to be here. And I think that it's the alignment between what we're doing at LinkedIn with, I think, what a lot of you are doing with your stakeholders, whether those are alumni or the other stakeholder groups that you want to talk to. There's some seating at the front here if you're looking for it. Once again, nice to have a full room. And I think that, the big reason why it energizes me is if we think and kind of tie it back to, what we at LinkedIn get really excited about every day, and that's creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. And I think that's really important, like I said, because it does tie to whether you're reaching out to alumni, working with stakeholders, or ultimately creating the best opportunity for your students and your stakeholders on campus. That's really what we're doing as well, too. So the alignment between our organizations, I think, is really critical. But also, it's really what's fueling, what's making the platform that much more successful and evolving the platform as a whole. So we call it the economic graph, which is basically our product of what we're trying to build. And as you can see now, we have about 630 million members globally and about 90,000 schools, 50,000 jobs. And what that's doing is customizing the experience for your stakeholders, your alumni, for yourselves, to really come to the platform for content that's going to help them better themselves, advance their career, or really come back and think about those career milestones like the schools that they attended. So why I think that's so important for you guys is you can really integrate your messaging and your outreach and your focus on a platform where your alums are coming and looking for that same information. Those are all the plugs I have for today. Just like I'm really passionate about where we're going. Before we start, I want to do something that I know is like not really recommended for speakers, but I want everyone to pull out their phones and open up their LinkedIn app. We're going to collaborate because in the spirit of the economic graph, in the spirit of coming together and building connections, I want everyone to pull out their LinkedIn app. If you don't have it downloaded, now is a perfect time to get peer pressured into downloading it. And at the very bottom, you're going to see a little two people icon. And if you click that button there, it's going to open up a second page. And there's a function we have called Find Nearby. I've also been told that in the new version of the app that I have on my phone, it's a little blue circle in the bottom right corner and not a Find Nearby on the top. But what it does is it actually opens up everyone in the room, and you can see everyone who's here, and you can choose to connect with them if you want to follow up with them afterwards. It's also how I pad my network, so feel free to connect with me if you'd like to. Your Bluetooth has to be on. Thank you for that. Mine is on, so it's there if you want to check it out. So while everyone's on their phone and not paying attention, I'm going to go through what we're going to cover today. So the first piece is to chat a little bit about where your alumni are and how they're interacting with the platform so that you can be better informed to make decisions on how you want to engage with them there. Then the second piece, Catherine's going to walk through a very specific example of how Royal Roads is leveraging the platform to find those lost alumni and share some of the successes from phase 1, phase 2, and a little bit of the third phase of the program we're working on together. And then I want to share some best practices that we're seeing from other schools that are working really well on the platform and be able to, you can sort of take those back to the campuses that you work on. And then we'll leave some time for questions either in the room or we're happy to hang out afterwards if you want to have them. Does that sound good with everyone? Good, because the slides we had to send 2 weeks ago and there's no time to change them, so they're stuck as they are. All right, so just to chat a little bit about, I think I touched on this, but this won't surprise anybody here, but your alumni are actively using the platform. And I would argue there's no better place for you to go and find and engage and outreach or reach out to your alumni because they are there. We have something called the Alumni Tool, where anytime anyone on LinkedIn in their education section puts your school there, they automatically follow your school page and show up in this insights area. So really, there's no other company on LinkedIn or any other social channel that has that access to their stakeholders or people that care about them than you do here. Because they're automatically saying, I want to hear about you and I want to hear what you have to say. So that creates a content marketing opportunity to go and speak to them. It creates a outreach opportunity for you to leverage the tool and figure out who is most important, but also a sort of mentorship opportunity for students to come and see who are your alumni, what did they study, and where are they now. So a really tremendous tool to leverage if you need to. We also know that because of that reason to believe or why they're coming in the platform to advance themselves, they're actually way more likely to engage with your brand than with any other brand on the platform. So we see that there's 4.6 times more, they engage at 4.6 times the regular rate of someone just engaging with any other school or any other brand. Quite remarkable. They're also 100 times or 100%, meaning twice as likely to share the content that you put out there as it relates to any other brand. And then 25% more likely to view InMail, which is our one-to-one or one-to-many communication platform. So if you're thinking about partnering with your marketing teams or if you're the ones that are leading marketing yourselves, this audience is here. It's a great opportunity to go and speak to them. Similarly, we've also rolled out more enhancements to allow you to go and have that conversation. So if you want to be targeting your posts or targeting your ads, we do have the ability to reach those people also based on what they've studied in school, their salary information. So there's a lot of different targeting facets depending on how you're thinking about your go-to-market programs that we're able to leverage. And then something that I think is really critical as well is when we think about database campaigns, which we're going to talk about in a second with Catherine, is we can also leverage your data sets to match with our data set, which I know is always an important topic when we chat in rooms like this one. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like as well. For those that are in the giving space, we also know that LinkedIn members are that much more likely to donate on a more regular basis and at a higher level than any other social platform. So when you're thinking about where you're placing the bets, good place to be. And also from an income perspective, we're seeing that LinkedIn has the highest sort of folks that are in that top 10% band as well on an indexed basis. So definitely much more charitable and willing to give. So if you're thinking about where to kind of focus, definitely a good place to be. Awesome. So before I pass it over to Catherine, I just want to kind of highlight a couple of ways that other schools are leveraging the platform to date. So the first bucket is around engagement, probably something that a lot of folks here are caring a lot about. With the rise in the importance of engagement scoring, we're seeing teams that are trying to drive more event attendees, volunteers, mentorship, giving. Depending on what those scores are, we're creating programs and campaigns that are allowing those schools to better reach those members. An example of that is the University of Toronto. They're diving really deep right into those engagement scoring activities and then working with us to make sure that we're laddering back to them. So definitely a great example of engagement. If you had something like that, good place for it. Next one is from a solicitation perspective. So we're actually partnering with UBC right now. They're in campaign, they're raising money, and we're looking at sort of sub-segmenting out by some of those more hard to reach or priority audiences, whether that's looking at salary information or looking at geography or looking at stage of career. So definitely a nice area to think about. And then I won't steal all of Catherine's thunder, but also, like I mentioned, from a data management perspective, leveraging some of the data that we have, leveraging some of the data that you have to create either a more complete database or update folks' information so you can continue to have that conversation with them. And lastly, we're doing a lot of work in the reputation space. So schools coming to us where they're looking to reach stakeholders beyond their alumni group in an effort to build that reputation to ultimately lead to larger fundraising opportunities. So McMaster, as an example, investing in those government, academic, and industry communities to elevate their name, which ultimately they're seeing is leading to higher fundraising than they've seen historically. So a couple of examples of just how alumni are on the platform, but I do want to pass it over to Catherine because I think that her story is much more compelling than the four that I can give, but definitely a great place to be. So, Catherine?
Thank you.
Oh, you can just skip over the next one.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to walk you through, I guess, a little bit of a case study that's really, I think, a proof point of how successful LinkedIn can be in utilizing LinkedIn in your campaigns. So I'm going to walk you through very quickly the elements of our 2017 campaign, and then we ran it again in 2018, and then some key takeaways that we've embarked on as an alumni relations team. So our challenge was really about connecting lost alumni. As an alumni relations team, we developed a promise, and that is to take the power of our place, every place. And it's really not a small goal. I mean, we're certainly committed to translating the strength of the experience and connecting alumni that they felt while attending Royal Roads all around the world. And to help bring this promise to life, we developed a new engagement platform. We partnered with Graduate, actually, to build our alumni engagement platform. But, building it and then hoping that everyone would join, it was like we had it in place. Now, how do we tell our alumni about it? So we had lots of, in our Razor's Edge database, we had lots of alumni who had actually, changed their contact information, so we had lost touch with them, or they had opted out because we weren't sending them interesting information. And so it really meant that we had to rethink our communications. Luckily, we had a very warm starting place. We have amazing alumni, and our graduates do come out with such a positive experience, so it is easy to reconnect with them. It's just the challenge is finding our lost alumni. So we wanted to take the platform, which we call Royal Roads Connect, and use that as sort of the hero of our campaign. So the objectives were twofold: primary, to generate awareness that we had this alumni engagement platform, and also to have our alumni register on the platform. And then, of course, once they're on the platform, to help them increase the engagement on the platform itself. And that's an ongoing goal that we have as a team. Our key message was to maintain, grow, and deepen the meaningful connections that you've made at Royal Roads, but to do that on our platform, which was exclusive to alumni. We really delved into what we felt was the value of having an alumni engagement platform. So we broke it into, three sort of key buckets: genuine connections, so all the things that you can do to stay connected with alumni, and then the support systems that we can put in place, and then that lifelong learning aspect that our alumni have told us that is so important to them. The barrier that we were experiencing in having conversations with our alumni was that they felt that, I'm already on a number of different social media channels. How is this different? And so it was really important for us to position this as an actual engagement platform, not another social media tactic. So our solution was building this ultimately we called it our Lost Found alumni campaign. So we broke it into several different, don't look at the other media tactics there, Graham, but we had Facebook, we developed some video, we also, of course, leveraged LinkedIn, and then we had some display that we did some geofencing actually around our convocation ceremonies, and we also did some email, some electronic DM from the institution. The concept was around making connections that really matter. So highlighting the value of the life-benefiting connections that are made on Royal Roads Connect. And we did it very playfully. So we had a very light, playful, almost a direct comparison to maybe some of the things that you might see on Facebook and LinkedIn. So the first campaign, the creative was all around. We had lots of cat videos, things that were really light, and just, as I said, really playing on the fact that, you've made these connections. There was a lot of great engagement on this campaign, a lot of alumni noticing the ads, sharing them with other alumni, asking them if they had seen the ads, asking them if they had, were aware of the fact that we had a platform. So a very fun campaign. The results, and why I'm actually here supporting Graham, is LinkedIn. Our in-mail in particular was an incredibly top performer, and if you have questions about the benchmarks, it's nice to have Graham here because I can't explain them as well as he can, but 67.66% was well over the LinkedIn benchmark, and it still stands actually as one of the best LinkedIn in-mails that we've run. The click-through rate was, again, well above benchmark and higher than any other in-mails that we had run on our marketing side. And I think it just shows you, that the message was very simple, but also back to the engagement that Graham spoke about and just the high level of engagement that our alumni have. The sponsored LinkedIn posts also saw very high click-through rates. The email, our alumni still really like to receive email from us if it has some interesting content. And on the right there, you can just see we just pulled a few screen grabs from some of the engagement comments, but our alumni had a lot of fun with this campaign. More importantly, the Connect results, so these are the results right from our platform dashboard. Lots of page views, and more importantly, we saw an increase in our alumni profiles being created. Based on the campaign results, we were confident that the additional marketing spend that we layered over our organic efforts, such as the DM, really yielded that impressive number of results. Heading into 2018, we brought the results forward and the key learnings. Obviously, LinkedIn works for us. It's where our alumni are, and it was the star performer of the campaign. For some things, it has to, depends on what you're trying to achieve. Our Facebook videos definitely had some healthy click-through rate. We wanted to make sure, though, that the content was relevant. I think in as playful as the campaign was, some of our alumni thought it was a bit too playful on Facebook, so we have to be a little bit careful with the wit and the humor as we leverage it. And then we added in, we thought this would be a good opportunity for us to add in a viral contesting component. And yeah, meaningful platform relevant messaging was key. So making sure our alumni team was going in and keeping the engagement on the platform live and fresh. So with the learnings in mind, we ran our 2018 campaign based on the success of the 2017 campaign. Again, we had LinkedIn, we had 4 versions of static ads. We had video, 4 versions as well, and then of course an in-mail. I should note as well that our in-mails, if you're familiar with in-mail, we had our in-mail actually come from a faculty member. So that was a little more credible as well than having it come from me, a marketing person. So it really was a faculty person speaking directly to alumni saying, remember how powerful your experience was. And so again, a much more credible message than kind of a fluffy marketing message. Again, we had a DM as well, an EDM, that we offered an incentive to see Ellen DeGeneres in Vancouver at the Board of Trade. The second campaign was around instant connections, so all around connections as well, but really demonstrating the endless value that you get. So it's not like you're, hoping to meet people. You're actually joining a network that at that time already had 4,000 alumni invested. We used similar, very fresh, creative, but just different types of connecting type visuals. So we had a coffee pots, we had books, and alumni reaching out to get a business card. So very fresh. Our colors are really they really popped in social. Not surprisingly, our LinkedIn email continued to perform exceedingly well for us. Again, very high open rate, very, very high click-through rate. And Graham, I think you mentioned a little later on in the presentation, in-mails really do have a very, they stay in your inbox for quite a while, so you get a lot of value versus a static ad or a display ad. Facebook also drove a high volume of clicks with our videos. They were fun, and a lot of folks were sharing, lots of engagement. Without the marketing support, we definitely would not have seen as many registrations. As I say here, we were averaging around 10, registrations a week. During the campaigns, we averaged around 130 new registrations. So really, if you are building an alumni engagement platform, you do need to do something over and above to generate awareness of it. And with Graduate, we're now ranked among the highest in terms of engagement, which is pretty special for us as we're such a small institution. 10 days prior to the campaign, we had 15 new users versus 10 days into the campaign, we saw 260 join the platform. And over the 6-week period, we received a total of 802 new registrations. So, lots and lots of page views. That's a dashboard that we get from our Graduate platform. I won't go through all of these, but lots of great verbatims, lots of great testimonials from our alumni, just telling us how great it is that we finally have something that they can connect on their own time. So they're opting into doing this on their own, which was really important. We ran an alumni relations survey, and they told us that they wanted to engage, but on their own time. So again, some more great testimonials. And the global reach also really surprised us because it was a domestic campaign, so that just shows you, how media extends. Key takeaways. When we first started with the Royal Roads Connect platform, we were committed to reconnecting with our alumni, but we didn't realize just how much this reconnection would mean to alumni, actually seeking to connect with other alumni. That was really, I think, a big aha to us, was that They, yes, they wanted to connect back to the institution and connect back to their faculty, but they really wanted to connect with one another, and not just within their own cohort, but with other alumni globally. So the platform really offers them that. Users are engaging on Royal Roads Connect and creating their own groups, and they're organizing reunions. We have our convocation and homecoming coming up, and we have several groups coming back and reconnecting on campus, and that they can do a lot of that planning on the platform itself. Just another great testimonial. Now that we have such a significant number of engaged alumni, we're in a position to actually make our platform the place for our alumni to get the most up-to-date and the current pulse on what we're doing. And we have faculty involved now. A lot of our deans are posting content. So it's really become the hub for our alumni. Overall, the above results and learnings have really helped us develop a solid alumni strategy. It informs our annual planning and our goal setting. We've got some nice benchmarks to work with. We're really working now to further engage our alumni on other touch points, so our face-to-face meet and greets. We have a new president who's just joined our institution, so we're going on a bit of a roadshow with him to meet alumni. We have online webinars that we're putting in place, and of course our convocation and homecoming. And as I mentioned before, that lifelong learning component is so important. And that's it for me. I'm going to hand it back over to Graham. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Catherine. So for this next section here, I want to jump into getting a little bit deeper on some of the things we're seeing working really well. Before I do that, though, just a quick show of hands in the room. How many people here are, I guess, running their own marketing or advertising initiatives towards alumni? How many people would be doing that themselves? Okay, and how many folks would be leaning on an internal team to do that? Okay, cool. So this does lean a little bit on the marketing side, but I will share some examples of how you can leverage it to also have more of those one-to-one conversations as well. But definitely from a best practice perspective, we are seeing more of that one-to-many being successful, but happy to touch on both. So I think that what's important to call out here is that we have a team dedicated specifically to higher education here in Canada, working with schools like Royal Roads and many of the other folks that are in this room. And we really view the platform as a way to something we call the connected school, where we can look at the entire educational journey and make sure that we have meaningful touch points at each level. That really starts in sort of the pre-stage, and I think the alumni definitely play a large role in having those conversations with prospective students. Then once they're actually in that school, they're certainly leveraging the platform for building their network out, collecting with alumni, landing jobs. And then at the end, we're sort of seeing that launch pad and ultimately leading back to supporting causes that we're looking for. So we're investing heavily in making sure that we have the right tools and insights and resources for you to take advantage if any of your teams touch any of these different touch points. And I'll get into what each one of those are. So the first one is from a media perspective. So this will be for more of those folks that are leaning more on the marketing side in the room, but essentially leveraging some of the channels that are out there to go and have those conversations. So the first one is your university page. So there, like I mentioned from the beginning, when someone on the platform adds their education section as your school, they automatically follow your page. So you have a pretty tremendous communication opportunity to go and speak to them directly for free, right? So you can actually go and use this page, whether that's yourself or using your marketing team or whoever has access to this, to be able to go and publish the stories that are most meaningful. You can actually target that information as well by geography, by field of study, so you can narrow it down depending on what conversations you want to have. So we've seen schools that leverage this really well. We have events in a certain town or a certain city that's coming up, or we have something that's faculty specific that we want to prioritize. But you can go and have that conversation and make sure that you're sharing that information. Once again, that's organic. So if you don't have access to that already, talk to your whoever in sort of central would have access to that, and see if you can get on their calendar to make sure you're getting the right communications out there. I could talk about that for hours, but there's a lot of different opportunities there for you to go and tell that story. The second one is online publishing. Once again, a totally free tool that you have access to on the platform. And the reason why this one is so important is that LinkedIn actually encourages you to use brand characters to tell that story on the platform. So because it's first-party content and you're not driving somebody over to the website, our algorithm actually promotes this content a little bit higher up. I forgot they're recording this. Disregard that I said that. But no, it does have a little bit of a favorable position because it's first-party content. So what that means for you is whether it's your head of advancement, president, faculty, academic deans, or prestigious alumni, having them actually share their story on the platform about their experiences, about a campaign that you're currently running, about how they're making a difference, or whatever that communication objective might be, that's a great way to go and share that communication for free. Benefit to them, their brand and professional brand gets built up on the platform. Benefit to you is that you're getting that message spread out in so many different places, okay? Once again, could talk about that for a very long time. So what I've done instead is just linked a PDF here when they send all the information out, so you can go through and see all the different stages if you do want your executives to reach out, or feel free to send me a note on LinkedIn and I'm happy to speak to that as well. But definitely a vehicle that we see a ton of success with, especially if you're trying to get some of your leadership to shift to more of a digital outlook. I keep burying my leads here. These 5 things are very important. We also have some paid channels. So yes, there are organic channels that exist, but we do have a lot of partners that are leveraging the paid channels to reach those audiences that they don't already have access to through email or through their organic LinkedIn channels, or they're not getting the engagement that you're looking for. So our sponsored content is our in-newsfeed ad product, where you're able to target messages to those audiences. Catherine touched on InMail, which I'll get to in a second, but the lead gen forms here as well is something that we leverage, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on. But it's also something that allows you to do data capture on LinkedIn. So I know that's a lot of questions that we get from a lot of our alumni teams is like, how do we make sure that we're in a healthy way and in a consensual way harnessing that data from folks that want to continue to have that conversation with us? Lead gen forms allows you for them to submit that information, and that can be integrated directly over to a spreadsheet or whatever CRM tool you're using. So a great vehicle for having that conversation. InMail is one that is clearly our top performer. It's the most cost-effective marketing channel when I think about alumni outreach. Reason being is just that the engagement rates are so high that they kind of break the pricing model. And the reason why I like it so much is you have so much space to tell your story. So if you're sending a message to an alum who hasn't engaged with you in the past, or maybe you're using this to supplement an email campaign that you're running, they're opening this message, you can tell your whole story and then get them to act. I'll use Carleton as the example because they're in the room and I'm biased. Sorry to everyone else. But also like a great vehicle for event marketing, right? So if there's events happening in certain cities, running targeted communications to alums in those cities to drive them to events to make sure that the room is full and full of the right people. Great vehicle for that, or if you're looking to get them to drive to an action. So InMail is definitely the leader in that space just because you can send those very direct communications, whether it's for reunions, convocations, events you have coming up, or you're just looking to get them to take an action. For those of you that aren't in the marketing space, you can also send InMails one-to-one from a LinkedIn Premium account as well. So if you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Recruiter, LinkedIn Business, I know a lot of development teams leverage that product. You can go and have those one-to-one conversations as well. This product is done on a more mass basis, so one-to-many, but you can also leverage the tools that exist to go and have those one-to-one conversations. So if there's high-profile alumni or prominent that you're looking to have that conversation with, one-to-one might work as well. I just want to highlight targeting as part of the media here because I think that it's really critical. We have so much of that profile professional data that you're probably looking for. So if there are certain folks that you do want to reach by, hey, we're underrepresented in this faculty, we can target by field of study. Or we have an event coming up in Calgary, we can target by folks that are in Calgary. If there are folks that have a certain salary band that you're looking to leverage from a giving campaign, either at the high level for a larger ask to speak to a biz dev team, or at the lower level to go and maybe start developing that micro donation behavior, we can use that same data as well. But I think what makes the Lost Alumni campaign so important is that we were leveraging the existing database that Royal Roads had, removing that from all of the alumni that were on LinkedIn and only targeting ads at those folks that weren't in your email campaign. So said another way, you can send your emails to people that you know have active email addresses. We can reach everybody else, right? So leveraging the targeting channels that are there, you can layer on. So it's not meant to be replacing anything. It's meant to be more supplementary in that way. Cool. So that's media. I'll just chat about insights as well, because I think that I know that data is an important topic for a lot of folks in this room, and it's something that we have certainly a lot of access to. So I mentioned sort of those different steps across the journey and where we typically get involved. So if I'll focus more on the third column here, but if there's anyone at your schools that are having these questions, we're happy to help answer them. So you can use the Alumni Tool and the insights that are there to figure out where your alumni are living, right? When they're actively updating where their cities are on LinkedIn, so you can see that information. You can sort that by degree and geography by leveraging the Alumni Tool. So what did they study? Where are they now? And then also on top of that, that's where we can look at sort of more of those custom data sets to see, breaking down those insights to figure out, if somebody studied this program, where are they more likely to end up? So you can work with your career services team to help kind of coach along those career paths as well. And the tool in which we use that is the Alumni Career Insights channel. So for those of you that don't know what this is, definitely very helpful tool. LinkedIn.com/alumni, okay? That's what's gonna basically pull you directly to this channel. It defaults to whichever school you attended, meaning which one you have on your education section on LinkedIn. So for me, it would be Carleton. If you happen to go to that school and then attend and then work at a different one, it will be different. But when you're in there, you can actually select which school you want to be looking at. And what this does, you can sort by where they live, where they're working, what industry are they in, what are they skilled at, and what did they study. And once again, you can kind of create these smaller groups to figure out exactly who you want to talk to. So if you're running a campaign and there's probably 10 people that you want to talk to with a very specific interest, you can break it down by they studied from, they graduated in this 5-year period from this faculty and live in this city, and maybe that's who you want to be inviting to come and speak to one of your events. So you can use these insights to really narrow down, and it will illustrate to you who those alumni are. I know this is a big favorite from a lot of folks in the room, but definitely a vehicle that if you're not using already, I would strongly encourage you to use it on a more regular basis. It's totally free, and you have access to it, and then to partner with your colleagues in career services to make sure that they're leveraging it for their students as well. Another free product that we have available is called the LinkedIn Insight Tag. And what this is a little piece of JavaScript pixel that sits on your website and allows you to see who people are that are visiting your various web properties. So you might use Google Analytics to figure out where people have come from and then where they went. This will actually tell you who based off of LinkedIn's information. Your marketing team might already be using this, so you can actually just repurpose it and figure out exactly who's visiting those channels. When we work with alumni teams, they love this because when they look at, are they visiting certain subpages on the website? Are they reading content that might be really meaningful and relevant to specific topics? This allows you to see who, what company are they working for, what industry are they in, and where are they coming from. So we're leveraging LinkedIn's data, and what seniority are they at as well. So we're leveraging LinkedIn's data to help visualize who is actually consuming the content and web properties that you have. Totally free. You can go and grab that right now. It's called the LinkedIn Insight Tag, and then website demographics helps you see who's navigating all those channels. Cool. Last section here is on tools. And this is just sort of going beyond the media channels we have available. Another product that really works well from an alumni perspective is something called Elevate. So this is essentially an advocacy tool that exists where you can push content out for your alums to share it in their networks on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. This should really say advocacy, because I think it's really important to just consider that in general. If you are thinking about a communication strategy, how do you lean on the folks that care about you the most? It's that much more meaningful to have it coming from them than as opposed to coming from the school in and of itself, because that's how they're going to evangelize it. LinkedIn has a product, not my business, so it doesn't bother me. Hootsuite makes a great one, and there's another company that's Canadian as well called Post Beyond that allows you to disseminate that information. So I'd say look at one of those 3 channels as a way to activate your alumni to go and tell that story across their networks. We see this work really effectively if there's an event in a certain area, if there's an alumni that receives a prestigious award, if there's something that you're trying to encourage people to do so. It's a tool that basically you can allow them to go and tell that story. We also have, for some alums as well, like a LinkedIn Premium option. So we're seeing sort of a bit of a bulk discount on LinkedIn Premium for both students, but also from an alumni perspective as well, where chapter presidents or branch presidents or whatever it is that you call them, giving them this access at scale to go and have all the conversations and activate their individual areas. Cool. So that's the whirlwind blitz of the 3 things where I think you can lean on a little bit more. And then I want to share some best practices that we're seeing from Canadian schools working really well. And then we'll save some time for questions. So I talked a lot about this, but I think the first and most important tip that I can leave you with is to, here, Carlton, I got you guys, right? I wouldn't leave you out of it. To make sure that you're promoting those success stories, events that are coming up, major announcements. Your alumni are following you for a reason. If they don't want to hear from you, they will unfollow you. Put this information out there and let them digest it and share it and like it and comment on it and disseminate it with their networks. Easily the most accessible and cheapest option you have to reach your audience. They're there, they're coming to LinkedIn for that information. Number 2, the only way you're going to be able to reach them is if they actually put their education section on their profile. So we've actually developed a tool. It's called Add to Profile. So it's addtoprofile.linkedin.com if you want to write that one down. And what it basically does is give you a little piece of code that you can put on your website. But what we're finding more commonly is right when somebody crosses the stage, you know how they get that email from the Alumni Association? I know I did when I went to Carleton. It's saying, hey, make sure you join our alumni network. Click here to go and continue the conversation. So what we're seeing schools now is actually adding that piece of code right in their email. And what it does when someone clicks on it is it immediately pulls up their profile. They can type in what school they went to, what they studied, and now you have access to them on LinkedIn. We see this as really important when you're not working for Central. So I'm going to use Smith School of Business as the example because they're not Queen's University. They needed everyone to actually put Smith School of Business on their profile. So they're using that code in all of their communications to go and add that information. Totally free, but available to you, addtoprofile.linkedin.com to put on your website and to put in all of those email communications and social ones as well if someone's not already following your page. The third one here is to really think about how to extend that reach beyond who you already have. So if you do have events that are coming up, important milestones and campaigns that you need to hit, or specific audiences that you really need to double down on, you can leverage some of the reach channels that are there. So Rotman does this really well, where they had an event coming up, and they targeted a campaign at senior alumni to come to a VIP event at a tennis event. Worked exceptionally well. Our friends at Queen's, same thing. You can leverage the targeting to focus on a very specific geo, in this case, New York City, to drive the desired behavior that you're looking for. So yes, they promoted it organically, but they also paid to ensure that they got the right folks in the room. Number 4 is double-clicking on what Catherine talked about for a long time, but essentially to think more about your contact database by encouraging them to update their information. So our friends at George Brown College, leveraging that lead gen form tool that I was referencing. So, if you want to come back and continue this conversation with us, click here, submit your information, and then in the back end, they're matching all of it. Or if you look at Royal Roads here, I think this is the best creative on this one. Using contact targeting, which is where you're basically uploading that email list of all of the active emails that you have, and then excluding them from your LinkedIn target. That allows you to get anyone whose email is not active or not their primary email to go and continue to have that conversation. You can use that from a marketing perspective or from a database perspective, but definitely a great vehicle to go and drive that behavior. And then lastly, for those of you that are in giving, donations works really well on our platform, like I mentioned from the beginning. You got an example here from University of Ottawa, a little bit of an older one, but I like the creative. And then from our friends at Western as well. So really, I think with this one is thinking about what's that year-round communication to your alumni network on how they can ultimately make a difference, or centering it around very specific giving milestones like Giving Tuesday, or if you have a specific day that your school sort of stands out and is a little bit different. We just know that our audience is prime for these messages and they're seeing them. You can leverage organic and paid channels, your employees, your leaders and prominent alumni to celebrate that story, because we know LinkedIn members are more likely to give than any other channel that's out there. And if you're using email as one driver and then LinkedIn removing all those drivers, you're in a much better position. So certainly from a donation perspective, that exists out there as well. That was a wealth of information, and I appreciate you putting up with both of us for running through all of that. But I just wanted to sort of close by saying just how grateful I am for the opportunity to come and talk to everybody here, and for both of us, especially to Catherine for coming up and sharing her story. It's not every day we get to come and talk to a room like this, so very, very grateful for the time. Catherine and I can both stick around here as well and answer any questions you might have now. Or if there's anything else we want to chat about, we're happy to hang around the front of the room. But thank you very much for having us. Yeah, are there any specific questions that anyone has right now that you'd like us to answer? Yes. Great question. You don't technically. So the only thing you need to have an institutional account for would be anytime you're leveraging the page. So if you're posting from the university page, or if you're running an ad, that would be a sponsored content. So meaning you need to have the page in order to share that content. But in Mail, you don't actually have to have it on there. We do find it's a little bit easier to sort, and for continuity's sake, like if someone started running it and all of a sudden left the organization, then that account goes with them. So we do encourage you to at least link it to the institution. But if you're having trouble with that, we've got some best practices just around reaching out to who those admins are and asking them to grant you like the lightest form of access, just so you can tie everything together.
We did find that it was more effective having it coming from, as I mentioned, a faculty member's LinkedIn account. And also, some people did reach out to her directly as well, which was an added bonus. So, yeah.
No problem. Yes.
I'm curious how LinkedIn suggests we deal with staff turnover on all of our teams. As the Director of Advancement, I connect with a lot of people for my professional career. I connect with a lot of alumni and donors at my institution. And as you build a career over time, those of us who have always used LinkedIn in our careers, how do you suggest, I have team members who come to me and say, I don't really want to be that front person, right? I want to be more in the back office. And it's about authenticity and networking. But how do you suggest we go forward as institutions in terms of transferring those relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll sort of break it into two parts, one on media and one on the tools that I touched on. So from a tools perspective, depending on the size of your team, a lot of those tools, whether it's LinkedIn Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Recruiter, LinkedIn Premium, if you're leveraging any of those channels to build those networks over time, we do have enterprise solutions that allow you to bring people in and out if there's a turnover issue. Just because some people what we hear all the time is, well, we paid for someone to use it, and then they left a month later. So the enterprise systems just allow you to pull seats in and out to better manage those folks. So that would be one area. The second one is if someone is not willing to be on the front lines and not build their professional brand around it, and if that's their core job, then maybe that's a different conversation. But if not, then I would encourage them to focus on the media side, right? If you don't want to be that person that's the biggest cheerleader, have them focus on the right organic content communications. Have them ghostwrite content for prominent alumni to go and have to go for them to be the face of it, but maybe they're writing it on their behalf. So I think if they're not willing to be that person, then at least there are a lot of marketing and communications opportunities that don't require them to just be having the one-to-one conversations. Is that helpful? Cool. Yeah.
For all the neat tools that you sort of presented today, like they're free or some available, but what are those? Do you have to have a premium account to get access to some of those, or how does it work?
No, anything that's free is free to anyone. So they're all just available there for you. Some of the tools, like anything that's a subscription-based product, so anything like the Recruiter, Sales Navigator, Elevate, all of those do require some level of what basically premium would be. So the website demographics is totally free. Yeah, exactly. So if you think about sort of the pricing models, a lot of the tools and media channels are free. Anything that would be considered paid advertising, so someone who you don't already have access to, there is a cost for that ad structure based on an auction dynamic. And then from a tool perspective, we think about LinkedIn Premium in 4 different ways. So we have, historically, what we used to have was LinkedIn Premium, which was sort of our revenue stream. But what we've done now is broken it up into 4 different types of people that might be leveraging the platform in different ways. There's Recruiter, which allows you to source talent on LinkedIn, which a lot of alumni teams like to use those tools because it gives you great access into folks. There's Sales Navigator, which is typically to prospect new business. Once again, very leaned on by alumni teams or development teams because that, if you view it in that sort of business development angle, it's very effective. There's Job Seeker, so somebody who's looking for jobs. And then there's what we call Business Pro, which is I don't fall into any of those 3 other buckets, but I still really want LinkedIn Premium. So that's sort of how we structure it, and we provide different resources at each one of those levels. And then each one of those comes with, as you move down that line, a varying degree of cost as well. Any other questions? Yes?
So the email one-to-many,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that is a subscription.
It's not a subscription product, but you do pay on a per delivery basis. Yeah, exactly.
Like we provide you the emails we have, active emails we have, and then you can exclude them from what you pull up and for like a card alumni, and then you reach out to the ones that we don't have
That's right.
on our behalf.
Exactly. So you can run an in-mail campaign to anyone you want. But one of the things we do recommend doing is taking your email list and then just removing it from it. So that way your dollars just work a little bit harder when you're focusing on that specific group. But that's done on a cost per send basis. And then you can just basically bid on how much that interaction is worth for you. So we basically look at it sort of like a direct mail campaign. So if you were to pay, X amount of dollars to mail out something to somebody, we typically are doing in-mails for anywhere between 20 and 60 cents each. But it does depend on your audience. Yeah?
Can those emails include personalization of any kind, personalized links or directions to other sites?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're completely customizable. So you drive the content, and they usually come with an accompanied ad, a static ad, as well as any sort of call to action. So if you want to drive them to a landing page or microsite or website, yeah, you drive the content for sure. LinkedIn will give you help in terms of best practices and that kind of thing, but yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So we're happy to stick around up front if anybody has questions they don't want to ask in front of the entire group. But just on behalf of both of us,
Thank you.
So much for your attention and for the great questions. don't know how to.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. So we just have some little gifts for you here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.